All right, so I hear a lot of people talking about going from $100,000 to $1 million to $5 million, and someone that's actually went from making their first $100,000 and then doing that several years in a row, and then going to hitting 1.7 million in a year's time, like literally from like six figures to a seven-figure jump. I want to share with you what that actually looks like, what the big shift was, but also when I got there, realized I don't know that I want to be here. And then I kind of took a step back. I'm 52 years old, and I've kind of readjusted or rethought through what I wanted to strive for. Like, do I need that much money? Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy. Like, why would you turn down, almost $2 million? And I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is there is costs that come with that, with your health, with your mental health, not even just your physical health, but your mental health. And that's something that definitely happened to me. Now, after doing this for 16 plus years, I've been self-employed for over 23 years now, I believe it is. We had a brick and mortar business, my wife and I. Then we went and started teaching online. That's where my first $100,000 came from. And then from there, ended up making $1.7 million. And then since then, it's been in between. But there's a reason why. All right. So what was the shift? Let's talk about that first. The big shift was when I started online, I was targeting an audience. And just to give you some backstory, if you don't know who I am, which by the way, I'm curious if you're watching this video right now, is this the first time that you're seeing a video by me? By the way, my name is Scott Voelker, if we haven't met. This channel, Brand Creators, that this is posted on, over the years, I've posted on a lot of different topics that I've been just kind of like sharing my backstory as far as like the different business ventures that I've went into and the different things that I've helped people with. But I'm just curious. Let me know in the comments. Is this the first time that you're seeing a video? And maybe where did you spot this? Was it in your home feed? I'm just curious. I'm just always curious about that stuff. But basically going back to when I started, I was a photographer. My wife and I were photographers. We owned a brick and mortar business, and we ended up teaching that. And then that turned into a six-figure business, which was awesome. We had a membership, we had courses, but we were kind of maxed out at what we could earn. And I think at our peak there, we might have touched 200,000. But I think it was averaging around 150, 170, somewhere in that range, which was great, a great living for us. And I started to wonder, like, is that the most that I'm going to be able to make? Because in my head, I was like, I want to make $250,000 a year. Like, that's my goal. I just want to make 250. That's like a really good salary. And that's what I want to shoot for. And so as I was looking for different ways to, as an entrepreneur, you're always looking for different ways. Like, what's the next thing for Scott? What am I going to do? How can I grow? And so I started looking into e-commerce, and I started to say, well, you know what? People buy products. So I want to sell products, not just digital products. I want to sell real products. And then I got involved in Amazon, and I started to sell private label products. Some of you might remember the days of the Amazing Seller podcast, which I had, which did really well, which was part of that $1.7 million year. So I went ahead and started to have some success there. Well, because I learned on the $100,000 business that I built in the photography space, I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share with people what I'm doing here. And you know what? I think there's a bigger audience of people that are in e-commerce. And there was. And so the shift was I started to target a different audience. And that audience was willing to pay more for my coaching and my teaching. So back in the photography days, it was hard to get someone to spend $500. Okay, $500 for someone to coach someone in their photography business. There was people doing it, but it was harder. All right, nowadays it's probably easier because it's kind of become mainstream now to charge higher ticket prices. But what I did was I realized that there's an audience out there. And if people are starting in e-commerce, they generally have a little bit of money to get started. I say a little bit, $5,000 to get started because there is a startup cost. And then what I did was as I started to really build that audience, which is basically all I've ever done, which is kind of like what I'm doing now. I'm starting over. My son and I started a brand new channel called Live Video School, where I'm teaching people how to build an audience now. And we're kind of doing a little bit of a pivot there, which I'll talk about that here in a second. But basically, the whole shift was the audience that I was going after had more money to spend and were willing, not even necessarily that they had enough money to spend, they were more willing to spend more to educate themselves and to get help to grow their business, their e-commerce business. And so then I went from charging, only a couple $100 in the photography space to where I started charging $500. Then I started charging $1,000, and I had charged up to $25,000 for individualized help. And so, which by the way, when you charge that much money, there's an extreme amount of pressure. And I realized I don't want that pressure. And so that is kind of why I kind of pulled back after that, because I did have some, I'd say, health issues. I got in the shingles twice, which is crazy. And doctor said, "Are you under a lot of stress?" And I'm like, "Well, kind of. I mean, the usual stuff." And my wife said, we gotta pull back here. You're doing way too much. There's too much pressure on you." And so that's when I pulled back and I said, do I really need this much money? No. Love it. It's great. It's a great little trophy too, right? It made $1 million, but not at the cost of your health. And I live pretty simply. I don't have a big mansion. I did have a lake house. We just recently sold that, did pretty well with that. So I've made pretty good investments, but I'm not sitting here saying I don't like money, but I'm also saying, like, since turning 50 years old, I'm like, at the end of the day, do I want to be on my deathbed saying, "Oh, I wish I made more," or is it, "I wish I was able to do this"? Because I started these businesses to be online for freedom, to be able to watch my kids, baseball, softball, soccer, basketball, plays, recitals, all that stuff, which I did. But then once I started to go and chase the money, that stuff started to kind of interfere with that. And then I was like, whoa. And then the whole stress thing, it was just crazy. So be careful on the goal that you're shooting for, and really ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve? The thing that I'm really trying to share with you is that you got to be careful of the trophy that you're going after, the amount of money that you're trying to go after. And you have to understand that there could be some mental health and some physical health things that come into play. So don't let that happen. That's my message for you. But the shift that I do want to share with you is, if you are a business coach, if you are a course creator, which, by the way, let me know that in the comments too. Are you a coach, a course creator? Do you sell online digital products? Do you sell physical products? Let me know that in the comments. But the whole point here is, if you are going after an audience and you want to achieve a certain revenue number, you have to do the math. And you have to ask yourself, is this audience willing to pay for my services or my coaching or my programs or my e-commerce products? Because you might sell an expensive product. And if they can't afford it, it's going to be hard to hit your number. It's going to be hard to make that shift. All right. So right now, we are going through this process. And actually, like I said, I've been going through this now for 15 plus years. And it's what I'm calling now the YouTube Creators 100K Roadmap. Because I really feel like if you get to the 100K, you can then get to the $1 million if that's your goal, or mid six figures. Because you got to get to your first six figures. So we're actually doing it on our other channel, Live Video School. We just started that channel about 11 months ago, and we just crossed over $70,000 in revenue. We've gotten an email list of over 15,000 now. So it's growing really, really quickly, but we're following what we're calling the 100K YouTube Creators Roadmap. And if you'd like a copy of that, it's 18 pages long. I actually put it into a guide. Just put 100K in the comments. All right, put 100K in the comments and I'll send it to you. And I go through how to get the audience's attention, find that audience, and then from there, show up, build that relationship with that audience, so then they're naturally going to pay you. And I go through everything in there as far as like what we're doing over there on the new channel, Live Video School, which my son and I are doing right now as we speak. That's my main focus now. Because like I said, my kind of like revelation was I want to do something that is low stress, I enjoy, but has an audience that is willing to pay and can pay for our services if they choose to. And like right now, we started that channel really just talking to anybody on YouTube, but now we're really starting to position and shift our messaging to business coaches, to course creators, because they are selling something. If they're selling something and I can help them sell more of that thing, they're willing to pay. And that's how I am. Like, I've paid for coaches. I've paid $30,000 for a mastermind. Why? Because it's going to help me add more money to my bottom line. So that's kind of how you have to look at it. And that's the big shift. That's how I went from $100,000 a year to $1.7 million in a year. All right. That's how I was able to do that. So I wanted to share that here with you. And if you want more details about the 100K roadmap that I put together, actually, my son and I shot a video. I'll put it right here where we walk you through the exact roadmap and how we're following it to a T and how it's working really, really well. Watch that video next, and I'll see you there.